to everyone who's joining us either via Zoom or YouTube. Thank you all for coming. I'm looking forward to a great discussion today with each of our esteemed guests. I'm Beth Hassett. I'm the CEO of Weave, and I'd like to introduce Cheryl Desantis and Dr. Reedy Gangoli from SmileDirectClub as my co-hosts for today's event. It's been a pleasure working with them to create this day and make it a reality. First, I'd like to introduce Cheryl Desantis, who is Chief People Officer at SmileDirectClub. With more than 20 years of experience in strategic people and organizational development, Cheryl enables the growth of the business through its team members, striving to maintain SmileDirectClub's strong company culture through values-based leadership. Throughout her career, Cheryl has held positions across many different industries, including manufacturing, telecommunications, professional services, e-commerce, and consulting. Cheryl, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Beth, for partnering with SmileDirectClub to bring together an amazing group of women today to have this conversation on confidence in the workplace. When I took a look at Weave's work on empowering women every day, I could see a true alignment with SmileDirectClub's mission as we seek to help people through times of transition in their life. And we really feel like confidence is the key unlocker for that. You know, as the Chief People Officer at SmileDirectClub, one of my goals every day is to bring humanity and compassion to the workplace. One of my core beliefs is to help individuals bring their whole selves to work and feel welcomed and accepted for who they are, what they've been through, what their life experience is, and what they represent. At STC, we work to attract, develop, and grow our team members as individuals. So as part of today's Women Empowering Women event, I wanted to share with you some tips on crafting your resume that will showcase you as an individual. I'm also happy and prepared to answer some questions from our participants regarding interviewing best practices or anything else you may want to know during the hiring process. So let's dive right in. So first things first, when you're writing a resume, remember this: there is only one you. Don't be shy. You have an incredible story to tell just for the human being that you are. Let the unique you come through your resume. Sometimes it can be tempting to take a sample and just emulate it. But there are no cookie cutter resumes. You are an individual. Don't compare yourself to others. Take your unique experience and bring that to the table. One of the most common mistakes I see leading up the talent acquisition, the recruiting team, as we look at resumes, is that people just describe their work. So one of our first tips is to focus more on showing and selling versus describing and telling. And so what I mean by that is it's a lot easier for people to write about the tasks they did, but we on the on the hiring side, we want to see your skills and what you learned from that. So some examples of this can be on the bad side of, when I was a server, I waited on tables in my section, or when I was a retail associate, I assisted people in finding beauty products. So while that may be true and it may describe the tasks of the job, please take a minute and look a little deeper at what were the actual skills. So when you were a server, how did you help improve each guest's dining experience during their visit? Or when you were a retail associate, did you ever help improve the store's inventory systems based on sales? Or did you train your coworkers on how to sell or cross-sell different products? So what I would rather see on the receiving side is for you to say in those roles that you were customer focused or detail oriented, or you had strong product knowledge or results driven. That would be more powerful. So really look at how you sell your own attributes and what makes you a unique person in that job and what you brought to that, because that will help me and any other HR person see who you are. And when you're touting your accomplishments, please be sure to use powerful, strong verbs. I sometimes see mistakes that we make as women is that we will tone down or be more humble. You know, we kind of think, well, a whole team did this. It wasn't just me. And, you know, I think it's okay as a human to be humble, but when you are looking at your resume, you need to really think about what you did specifically and really the powerful verbs going in. So, you know, an example of that is show where you've taken initiative or leadership, like that you helped advance a project or that you created an important document or important training protocol, that you advised your boss on a best practice in selling, or that you generated a new way of doing things. So what we want to stay away from is words like helped or assisted to describe your contribution. So really go through and figure out how you can do that and really accurately reflect your work from a source of strength, and really look at where you took leadership. Even if you weren't the leader, how you maybe stepped up and made a suggestion that created a new way of doing things. So next, I want to focus a bit on relevancy and the dates in your resume. So focus on the job you want at the hand. It is okay to have a few different versions of the resume if you're applying to different jobs. So you may have a version of your resume that speaks more to your experience in customer service if you have that in your background, and you're looking for a more outward facing job where you have to interact with customers. Or in your background, if you had something on analytical skills, you might have a version that really hones and highlights those analytical skills throughout the jobs you have and the data-driven initiatives if you're looking for something in the business realm. So it's okay to have those different versions based on where you're going, because you are a multifaceted person, and what you want to do with one job may be different than what you can provide to another. Finally, and this is a big one, be sure to read your resume out loud after you're done. I know for myself, sometimes my brain can go on autopilot and I'll read something just with my eyes and I can skip over a typo or a word missing or something like that. But if you read it out loud, you will catch those little missing words or an A to an an or something like that. So take a few minutes, read it out loud. You want to put your best foot forward always. So don't let the application be overshadowed by something you could have caught if you just took that time to do that. So I'm going to pause. I hope these quick tips help you navigate your next steps as you're re-entering the workforce. You know, looking for a job is not always easy. And my advice to you is just be persistent, stay really positive. Being positive, knowing the company can really take you a far way. You know, we train our hiring leaders to hire for attitude because we know we can train you on skills. So, you know, I'm going to pause here for a moment, and I know we want to take a few questions from our Weave participants about the hiring process.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. Yes, we gathered some questions from our staff and the people that we serve at Weave. So I think that was a great foundation and really good tips for building a good resume. One question is, we know anybody, even the most confident person, can be really nervous and lack that confidence seeming self when they're in an interview. Can you offer any tips for, you know, showing confidence and showing that you're interested in the position? Because, you know, that's a big part of getting hired is, why does this person even want to work here?
Yes, no, I love that question. First and foremost, I wish I could say to everyone, before you walk into an interview or if it's a Zoom or in person, take a few minutes to take some deep breaths. Sometimes what happens is we get so nervous and then we start shallow breathing and then our voice gets higher and we don't accurately feel confident. So take some deep breaths. The next one won't surprise you, which is the power of a smile. So there are so many ways to show confidence, but I find if someone is centered, has a smile on their face, it can show that you're at ease and that you're excited to be there. Eye contact is super important. So don't be afraid of that. People are expecting you to look them in the eye and be interested. And I know each and every one of you probably do this with your friends when you're chatting with them on FaceTime or something like that. So just really stay in the moment, eye contact. And then I like to prepare. So when I was earlier in my career and I was thinking about an interview, I would always write what I thought a few questions would be that they're going to ask you about your strengths. They're going to ask you about maybe something that didn't go well that you need to learn from and what you think you can contribute to the company. So write them down, practice them so it comes out very naturally. And lastly, I would say wear something that makes you feel confident. I think when you feel uncomfortable in your clothes, you come across that way. So, we are a little bit more of a casual environment now, but just make sure you feel really good about what you're in. So those would be my top tips for that one.
Awesome. Is there anything else that you would suggest for preparing for the interview? I mean, whether it's the mindset or what types of questions would you expect somebody to be prepared to answer, beyond just the strengths and weaknesses? Are there other things that you would expect somebody to show up very polished with?
Yes. First and foremost, always do your homework. You can tell when someone has prepared and they know the basics of the company, they know what products you're selling. A company will never expect you to be an expert on them, but they will know by the questions you ask of like, hey, I saw a recent press release on this, or I saw some company news on this. Can you tell me more about it? I'm interested in that. Or, hey, I saw you opened in, this state or in this area, or a new store in this city. Tell me what that's like. Those are all good questions. And I feel like tell me more about X, if you've done your research, is a really good way to lead into those conversations. Sometimes we think I have to come in with this really smart question, but if you just say, hey, share with me more how you're going to develop me, share with me more how I might learn and grow, and who might mentor me in this job, and just be really curious. Another top tip is if you know who you're interviewing with, most people are on LinkedIn now, and you can get more of their profile or their background. I have a tidbit on my LinkedIn about playing softball in college. So I always like when people ask me about that, because I know they've really thoroughly gone through my LinkedIn, but it's something personal. And I like to connect with people on personal things. So don't be afraid of that. And I would say, other ways to prepare is, really make sure you know where you're going. If it's in person, give yourself enough time. We don't like it when people are late. If it's a Zoom interview like this, just make sure you have a very, I have my company background behind me, but I've interviewed people who had like really cluttered background and a lot of noise of like outside, repair work. Really think about what's going to be going on behind you. But, I would think to prepare for the questions is always about how can I learn and grow? What can I contribute? Maybe, someone else that was in this role, what did they do to make them successful? What are those key attributes that you're looking for in a person? Because then you can tailor your responses to those key attributes that they're looking for.
That's great. And finally, do you have any tips for after the interview? Is there something memorable you can do to make sure that they remember you after the interview?
Yeah, well, I would just say, before, during, and at the end, really let your personality show, because for me, that's what makes it memorable, is when you bring your self, you can crack a joke, an appropriate joke, you can crack a smile and just really let your personality shine. But I would think afterwards, for me, what makes people memorable is how much they prepared, where I walk out of that room and go, this person really wanted that job because they really prepared. But other ways to doing that is, of course, an email or a note to those that you interviewed, thanking them for their time, because people's time is valuable. I may be a little old school, but I personally like a nice handwritten note. I mean, I won't not accept someone because I don't do a handwritten note. But when I get one, I go, wow, this person really wanted the job because they took the time, they wrote it, they got my address, they put a stamp on it. I always think that's a really nice touch. And I have 3 daughters, and I have told my oldest one who's in this area of like, please do that every time.
That's great. Oh, this was so great. And thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us.
Thanks for having me.
So I'd like to now hand it over to Dr. Reedy Gangoli with SmileDirectClub. Dr. Reedy works with industry professionals to help educate them about SmileDirectClub's telehealth platform and acts as a liaison to share the latest capabilities and innovations. She holds a Bachelor of Dental Surgery degree and a Master of Science in Biomaterials and Biomimetics and a PhD in Bioengineering. I don't even know what half those words mean, but they sound very, very scientific and fancy. So happy that you're here, and I will turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Beth. Thanks for those kind words. And to all our Weave participants tuning in, I'm inspired by the dedication and determination that each of you have to build a brighter future for yourselves and for your families. As you bring in these new valuable skills into the workplace, another significant element of success at any job is, of course, confidence. And I'm honored to have the opportunity to co-host this event, The Confidence Factor, Women Empowering Women. We always need to have more of that in the world. And I look forward to later sharing how to find that confidence through self-care as well. Now I would like to take the moment to introduce our next speaker. She's the highest ranking Asian American in California government and the treasurer of the world's 5th largest economy. She was a member of the State Assembly from 2006 to 2012, where she claimed the Assembly Select Committee on Domestic Violence and spearheaded the legislation that strengthened laws protecting victims of domestic violence, consumers, and working families, prevented the spread of hepatitis B, increased access to quality health care, and strengthened equal rights for all Californians. Her last 2 pieces of legislation allowed women who suffered domestic violence and were convicted of life without parole the ability to have their cases reheard, utilizing battered women syndrome as a defense for the very first time. Women are still being released from prison today who were convicted under outdated laws that refuse to acknowledge the role of pervasive domestic abuse and family violence. Please join me in welcoming State Treasurer Fiona Ma. Treasurer Ma, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Gangoli, for that introduction and great tips on resume writing and interviews from Cheryl. And it's my honor to be here to join Beth at Weave. And I'm going to just talk a little bit about my background and then how I got involved in Weave. Growing up, I was the oldest child. So my father treated me like the oldest male son. He did everything with me. He taught me, how to change a car tire, mow the lawn, and he encouraged me to work early. So I started my first job when I was 10 years old. I would go around our neighborhood pool and ask people if they wanted a mother's helper. So I think, going out there and hustling and, earning money at an early age really taught me a couple things about working hard and also the value of money. My parents also trained me to be good at math. I would balance their checkbook every month, write the checks out for them and let them sign the checks, but I would definitely balance all their checkbooks, help them file all the bills that we paid. And eventually, my parents convinced me that I should be an accountant. So that's what I studied for in junior high and high school, went to the Rochester Institute of Technology for accounting and got a job with one of the big 8 accounting firms, Ernst & Whinney, specializing in real estate taxation. But I learned early on that my calling was not to sit in an office and do people's taxes. And so I started my own practice at the age of 28, got involved in all sorts of nonprofits and became president of a small business association. And that's the first time I got involved in public service, but also helped a lot of small business owners with their finances and their taxes. And yes, it can be intimidating, but if you have a good professional that can handle that type of work, more power to us. And I did help a lot of women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses with their tax, accounting, and bookkeeping. But one thing led to another, and I looked around at the people in elected office and decided that I perhaps could get elected one day so that I could directly help people be at the table, work on public policy, as well as allocate money from the budget for priority programs and services. And so I finally was able to run for the San Francisco Board of Supervisors in 2002 to 2006, then got elected to the State Assembly in 2006, where I asked to chair the Select Committee on Domestic Violence. I had spent some time with advocates in San Francisco when a young woman named Claire Joyce Tempango was killed by her ex-boyfriend in front of her house, in front of her two young children. And I found out that the criminal justice system failed Claire Joyce, and that we needed to do more to protect victims of domestic abuse and violence. And so that's how I came to the legislature, asked to chair the Domestic Violence Select Committee, and that's where I met Beth and Weave and heard all of the great programs that they have, donating clothes. I've been donating clothes to Weave probably for the last 15 years now, but also the services that they provide for the women that have been abused, the hotline, finding services for them, as well as providing adequate shelter when they do need assistance. So it has been kind of a lifelong passion of mine, not only as a woman but also to mentor other women, to empower women, to get involved in women's organizations. And it's my honor to be here to spend a little time with you talking about financial empowerment.
Thank you, Treasurer Mara. Thank you for your moving words on building and finding your own confidence. Now, I'd like to ask a few questions from our Weave participants. The first one is, how did you get to where you are? Having a great relationship with money, was it always this way?
Well, like I said, growing up, my parents really focused me on math and accounting and bookkeeping and just keeping good records. So I think it's something that I am comfortable with from an early childhood. Something that I think I'm good at, looking and analyzing numbers and spreadsheets and budgets, and also filing people's tax returns. I think that's really intimidating for folks if they don't understand, what goes into a tax return. So I used to do a lot of pro bono work, but it has led me to, today being the treasurer of the fifth largest economy, where I actually feel like I'm qualified, or perhaps overqualified for this job. But it's great that I'm able to use my private sector as well as my public sector experience to be able to be the state's banker. Even during these tough pandemic times, we are still in good financial condition here in California. We're still selling a lot of bonds, and investors are very, very positive and, buying a lot of our bonds because of the confidence that they have in the state of California.
Thank you for that, Treasurer Mao. We have a few more questions as well. How was your experience in being a woman in a male-dominated field? How was that like?
Yeah, I feel like whether I was an accountant or board of supervisors, there was 11 of us. There were 9 men, 2 women. Then when I was in the state assembly, only about 25% of the 120 members was women. And now as the banker, I am in a lot of meetings with a lot of men who are in the banking industry. So it's always interesting. Some people are not comfortable when I am, at the table. I also usually bring my chief of staff, who is Filipina, and it has really changed the dynamics and the dialogue when people come to meet us. They always try to bring at least a woman and someone of color. And I think that that's really helping folks move up the corporate ladder at some of these institutions. So I think we just have to be at the table representing. We don't have to say much. I think people understand the dynamics when you walk into a room and it's not diverse or not representative, especially of the people that you are meeting with.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that push and that representation. It is so key and so important. There's another question with regards to your inspiration. You know, what inspires you to donate clothes to Weave, and how do your clothes impact your confidence?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, we love our clothes. We love our, our glasses and our jewelry. I mean, that I think does give confidence to us. And as women, don't let the men tell you what you should look like, how long your hair should be, what color it should be, what color lipstick you should wear, or how high your heels should be. So I think you just need to find your brand, what you're comfortable with, what makes you confident. Because when you are confident in the way you look, what you're wearing, how you appear, that actually shines through when you are communicating with folks.
Thank you for that motivation. And another one is, what are some things that you do when you need a confidence boost? Before a big presentation, before a big speech, what is your go-to?
I get nervous before I have, big speeches, but I feel like once I get through that first couple of seconds, things just kick in, right? You just start focusing on what you're trying to convey and to discuss. And you try to make it a little bit personal, right? I don't like reading from a script. Sometimes I have to if it's a technical conference that I'm speaking at, and I have to be careful not to speak to the market when we're issuing bonds. So sometimes I have to read a speech, but I prefer to ad lib, to add stories, to bring in, personal anecdotes, and also, to be a little bit humble when you talk and to try to relate to your audience. I think that makes better storytelling and makes your presentation a lot better.
Thank you, Treasure Ma. That's very inspirational. Thank you for joining us today at the Weave event and for your dedication to women and the families that Weave helps every single day. We'd like to take a moment to capture this event with a photo. Treasure Ma, Beth, Cheryl, can I have you look into the camera, and one of my colleagues from SmileDirectClub will have a photo of us.
Great, thank you. Okay, just bear with me for one moment. 1, 2, 3, smile. 1, 2, 3, smile. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, for helping capture this moment. This was very exciting. Thank you very much. Thank you, Treasure Ma. Thank you, Cheryl. And thank you, Beth. So thank you, Beth, again for co-hosting this wonderful event. Today we've seen women leaders, movers and shakers come together for a frank discussion on what makes them confident and tips that have helped them succeed in the workplace. You've heard from Cheryl earlier how a smile can be a tool to exude confidence during an interview. Now, I'd like to talk a little bit about how oral health plays a role in your smile, your confidence, and your well-being. Now, most people are not aware that oral health and general health is directly connected. While it's obvious that the mouth is connected to the rest of the body, it's important to understand how certain activities that occur in the mouth affect the body as well. We all know that brushing and flossing can keep your teeth clean, but what most people don't know is that brushing at least 3 times a day and flossing once a day can reduce inflammation in the gums and support good tooth structures as well. This is important because chronic inflammation in the mouth in the form of gum disease is very similar to what happens in the rest of your body in terms of inflammation, such as diabetes, coronary artery disease, as well as rheumatoid arthritis. And studies have shown that if patients reduce chronic inflammation that gum disease causes by having good oral hygiene, they also have a positive effect on their diabetic, heart, and overall health condition as well. So I want to provide maybe a few tips, that can help you take care and help you advance your own oral health as well to make it part of your confidence structure. So brush your teeth often, but treat your teeth kindly. It's absolutely possible to brush your teeth too hard by using a toothbrush that's maybe too firm. This can actually harm your teeth by eroding the hard enamel, and that protects the inside of your tooth from cavities and decay. Your tooth sensitivity may also be contributed because of brushing too hard. I always recommend a toothbrush with soft bristles. Avoid excessive aggressive brushing that can cause damage to your enamel. I also noticed that most patients think that if their gums bleed, they should stop brushing them so they don't further irritate them. However, bleeding gums is actually a sign of early inflammation. So the best thing you can do for your oral health is to actually continue brushing your gums. But I would recommend brushing gently and immediately visit your dentist to manage the bleeding. When you brush, it removes the harmful bacteria that can make your gum disease worse. Also, don't forget to brush your tongue. Your tongue is the biggest bacteria trapped in your mouth. Don't forget to scrub your tongue, remove the bacteria. That'll also get rid of bad breath, which is, again, a huge part of confidence when you walk into that interview. To keep your toothbrush working for you, try to replace it every 3 to 4 months. Since you're using your toothbrush to keep bacteria away, make sure to rinse that as well. Don't store your toothbrush in a small, cramped, dark place, and you probably store it in a cup or a toothbrush holder, and avoid letting it touch other people's toothbrushes. Next one that I'd probably give for a huge bout of confidence is flossing. Many people think that it's not necessary, but I will stress the importance of practice to everyone who is present here. To get a good flossing in, I suggest using string floss and a water flosser, which is more beneficial. Using floss picks may seem an easy solution, but most people don't use the picks correctly, and sometimes they actually spread bacteria within the mouth. So I recommend you floss at least once a day. Important to do it daily so your teeth are clean, nice, bright, and shiny. Every day is typically sufficient for most people since bacteria colonies in your mouth, create plaque. It takes about 24 hours to form. When you floss, it removes all of these. So once that starts to happen, and if you have any excessive leftover sugar in your mouth, it starts to release acid, which eats away at the enamel, which also often causes cavities. So again, to maintain a healthy gum, maintain healthy smiles, be careful, be sure to floss, brush, and rinse often. Lastly, if you are wearing a retainer, don't forget to clean the retainer as well. Bacteria even builds up on the retainer and can cause cavities, tooth sensitivity, and harmful effects. I recommend slightly scrubbing with your toothbrush, or SmileDirectClub. We offer something called a Smile Spa to clean and take care of your oral healthcare tools as well. Taking care of your smile and your overall health will make you confident and will make that smile last longer and help you grow healthier habits throughout. Confidence can come in many forms, but a smile is an easy way to show people that you're confident and happy to be in that interview with your potential employer. So some of these tips I hope have helped you so that you can come up with that confident smile in your next interview. So putting a bow on it, each of you have the confidence to succeed as you're here today as a result of your sacrifice, hard work to help you advance in your life and career. So this confidence is what SmileDirectClub is committed to helping support, one smile at a time. We are dedicated to empowering self-confidence with straighter, brighter smiles, and that confidence is an essential ingredient of success in your job interviews and even in the workplace. So your smile directly affects your overall health, your well-being. Your smile can potentially be that game changer. In fact, smiling and confidence are integrally linked. So today, SmileDirectClub is honored to help each and every person with a boost of confidence by providing you with one of our teeth whitening kits for a brighter smile. We want to give you confidence and the opportunity to smile every single day. Thank you, Beth. Turning it back to you, and I welcome any questions from the participants.
Great. We've got a list of questions. People are very curious about oral health. First of all, thank you for providing those whitening kits. We'll be distributing those to all of our clients who are staying in our residential services. We operate a large safe house. We have apartments that folks stay in and cottages. And we also help folks who are living out on the Mather campus. So it's a big part of our program. And it's the folks who are staying with us the longest. So I'm very grateful for all these tips for folks, since getting a job is very often one of the things that people are working on while they're staying with us, and being confident certainly will help people get those jobs. So one question that came up is, are the whitening kits okay if somebody has missing teeth or dentures? Can they be used on just anybody, or are there any precautions that you would recommend?
Sure. So each Bright-On pen contains 4 applications, and the 4-pack of Bright-On is a full 1-week whitening treatment, which keeps your teeth at their brightest for 6 months. Now, if you whiten for 5 minutes every morning and night for 1 week, that's the protocol. You'll enhance the power of Bright-On with the premium whitening with the LED accelerator, helping you achieve, the pearly white teeth. This LED light uses blue light to react with the bright boost, making it absorb even faster and speed up the whitening process. Plus, the light plugs in with almost any iPhone and the Android phones, making your smile a little easier to achieve. The LED light works with a few different phone connections, including a USB, a micro USB, USB-C, standard USB, and Lightning as well. But please note that Bright-On does not work to whiten veneers or dentures or any sort of bonding or filling. When using teeth whitening with bonding or fillings, this may end up discoloring your teeth. So it's meant for natural teeth and natural dentition that's in your mouth. Bright-On was specifically formulated to deliver brighter smiles. However, if you feel any tooth sensitivity or discomfort, discontinue use for 24 hours. Now, do not use Bright-On if you are under 12 years of age. Additionally, to get to a great point, that Bright-On is vegan, it's gluten-free, it's soy-free, and lactose-free, so that helps with any of the allergens that might be brought upon. However, we do recommend that women who are pregnant or nursing check with their doctors before beginning any form of teeth whitening treatment, including the Bright-On.
Thank you. That's very helpful. One thing that our staff has found in the folks that we serve is that too often dentists aren't talking about longer term care and treatments. They're just extracting teeth, and rather than trying to save them or come up with other solutions. Do you have any advice about this? Or, what kind of conversation might somebody be having with their doctor rather than just maybe accepting pulling the tooth out as the only option?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. And, what I'd like to start back with is the home care. Having good health, having continuous home care, creating and maintaining good brushing and flossing habits, and encouraging your children to develop these good oral hygiene habits early. It can help create that first line of defense until, the issues that can lead to extraction. Now, extraction is really the last phase of treatment when there's nothing else available. By the time extraction is the suggested treatment outcome, it usually means that whatever issue is present has developed, it's gone too far, and options such as fillings and crowns are not possible. And that's why waiting for that long period is probably not the best idea. So once you're taking care of home care, I think I would recommend that visiting your dentist, irrespective whether you're a child or an adult, every 6 months is key. And when visiting your dentist regularly, it allows them to detect issues early, so you can seek less invasive procedures that may be a treatment option. Additionally, for children, I recommend consulting with your dentist on regular fluoride treatments and I cannot stress enough on the home care remedies. The brushing, flossing, and making sure you have the right routine will prevent you from developing that small cavity that might end up leading to a root canal that might further end up leading to extraction. So my recommendation is to first start with home care, visit your dentist every 6 months, and make sure that you talk about your oral hygiene care and your home care with your dentist so they know how to help you.
You mentioned using string floss rather than like the floss picks. What other suggestions do you have about other products? Like, I never know whether my toothbrush is too hard or too soft. What do you recommend around that? Are there toothpastes that are better than others? What about mouthwash? Is that a useful thing? Or, what would you recommend for that home care?
I think on the home care side of it, the water flosser is definitely the best way to go about it, because it gets into places and nooks and crannies that sometimes the floss might not get to. If your teeth are, not straight, you might have some kind of crowding or spacing issue. Flossing becomes more difficult. Straightening is the best option for that. But in the meantime, you can also use water flossers, water picks. They're also more gentle compared to the floss, etc. I really don't have recommendations on, what toothpastes are better out there, but I would definitely recommend, toothpastes that have fluoride in them, unless you're allergic to fluoride or there has been a dentist recommendation to not use a fluoride toothpaste. Definitely go with something with fluoride. in terms of, what brushes out there or what brand is better, I would recommend try, and you will be able to feel most toothbrushes have a label on them that says soft, medium, and hard. It's always good to work with a soft toothbrush, especially if you have sensitivity in your gums, etc. And in terms of, whether you want to use a floss or a water flosser, it all depends. It's good to start. If you cannot buy a water flosser today, start with a floss. When you can get to buy a water flosser, sure. But don't consider the water flosser as the gold standard and not do anything. It's always good to start and then move up in your oral care routine.
Got it. How can nutrition affect our dental health?
So I think this is a very good discussion point here, because nutrition, the oral health is, it's connected with the dental health. So be sure to, keep up with the good oral health habits, such as brushing after every meal, avoiding sugary and acidic foods, but be conscientious about your food choices. There's evidence out there that strongly suggests that oral bacteria may be linked to heart disease, arterial blockages, and even stroke. So there may be some illnesses that are connected with poor oral hygiene, etc. So I would recommend that having balanced diet and making sure you don't have sugary foods and starches. And I think younger and adolescent population is usually more, affected by the sugary, unhealthy foods. So having that balanced diet is important. And in general, the tips that you would think of, having for your general body health, those same tips apply for oral health and oral nutrition as well.
That's great. You've mentioned some illnesses that can be related to poor dental hygiene. Are there any that you want to spotlight? Or it sounds like some are exacerbated. Are some caused by poor oral hygiene?
Yeah, I would like to go maybe into details of a few of them. Of course, we know that decay is directly caused by potentially not having the best oral hygiene, but there's also other issues that can cause decay as well. But there are also a number of major chronic inflammatory disorders that are exacerbated by poor oral hygiene, and the Mayo Clinic has cited numbers of diseases that are caused by poor oral health. This includes endocarditis, when there's an infection in the inner lining of your heart chambers or the valves. That typically occurs when bacteria or germs from other parts of the body, such as your mouth, spread through the bloodstream and attach to certain areas of the heart. Poor oral health can also cause pregnancy and birth complications. Periodontitis and gum disease has been linked to premature birth and low birth weight as well. Pneumonia is another one that's on the list. Certain bacteria in your mouth can be pulled into your lungs, causing pneumonia and other respiratory diseases. Then there is the vast majority of the cardiovascular diseases. All the connection is not fully understood. Some research suggests that heart disease, clogged arteries, and stroke may be linked to inflammation and infections that oral bacteria can actually cause.
You're making me want to go brush my teeth right now. The majority of the clients that stay with us have children with them. Do you have any tips or tricks on getting your kids to take good care of their teeth? Because I know that can be a big challenge to get your kids to really engage in those good practices that will last them throughout their life and keep them healthy.
I think, leading by example. So if you are brushing your teeth, if you're having good oral habits, they're definitely going to mimic you. And I think making it fun, right? Making it fun for the kids, making it a game, making it an activity, making it connected to something that they enjoy, whether that's a song, that's a tune, or getting them a cute little toothbrush that has their favorite cartoon or action figure characters, all of that can be made fun. But I think the most important part is leading by example. So if you're taking care of yourself, you are also indirectly having those habits influence your children as well. So I would say, get good habits as an adult, and then you will pass those on to your children when they see you.
Great. And then finally, you mentioned, having crowded teeth or teeth that aren't straight, not being good because things can get trapped in there. Are there any other words of advice around the importance or what's good about getting your teeth straightened? And I know you guys have a very affordable way to do that, because I think, a lot of people think, oh my gosh, braces are so expensive, I can't afford that. What are some of the advantages of straightening your teeth?
So straightening teeth is, I think there's like two-pronged advantages. Like the first one is your confidence. Having straight teeth, being able to smile on the camera, especially, you know, like we are right now, many of our colleagues are having interviews through Zoom. So the first opinion of you on the world is your smile. So I think having that confidence is a big boost in various other places in your life as well. And then the other part is the oral health benefits, right? We were talking about how oral health is downstream and your mouth is a gateway to the entire body. So having straight teeth is a big benefit for not having that excess plaque generated. If your teeth are crowded, it's going to start to trap food. And people always think that, you know, if my teeth are not very crowded, it's minor, it's small, but it's these minor, small rotations, minor, small crowding or spaces that start to get into a downstream effect that will eventually lead to bigger causes like decay, like poor gum health. And yes, SmileDirectClub, we do offer a very, very convenient, affordable way to straighten your teeth. We do understand that, you know, many of the women who are part of Weave might not have the benefit of or the time to go to their doctors physically every day because, you know, they have other responsibilities. A good part about the SmileDirectClub platform is our telehealth. So all of our treatment is doctor directed and doctor managed and doctor prescribed. And then it's also having a telehealth platform to make sure that they are tracking correctly. If there are any issues, they can also be brought up with our dental care team who's available 24/7. So for those minor corrections that will boost your confidence, that will help you get into better oral health and better oral hygiene, we're always here to help beyond just the whitening kits. You can always try to reach out to us and, you know, find us on, you know, various social media or even look us up on the internet and you'll be able to get a possible consultation and a prescription to straighten your teeth if that's what you'll be interested in. We are happy to help.
Great. Thank you so much. This was very informative and I really appreciate you participating.
Thank you, Beth.
Now it is my honor to introduce Senator Susan Rubio to speak with us today and answer some questions we've prepared for her. Senator Susan Rubio was elected to the state Senate in 2018, where she represents the eastern portion of Los Angeles County. Senator Rubio is the first Latina chair of the Senate Insurance Committee and is on the Senate leadership team. Before joining the Senate, she was a public school teacher for 17 years and was an elected official for 13 years in the city of Baldwin Park. Senator Rubio has been a strong proponent of women who have suffered domestic violence and abuse by introducing bills that enhance protections for domestic violence survivors and aim to prevent and reduce domestic violence. Welcome, Senator Rubio.
Hello there. I was having a little bit of trouble, but it's to be expected when we have this virtual forum, correct? So
Correct.
Thank you so very much for having me here. It's an honor to be among such strong women here, but thank you. This is important for me to participate and collaborate. Always when it comes to empowering women, giving resources and offering encouragement. I think it's so important that we support each other in that respect. And the work that you all do it's incredible. So thank you for having me here today, in particular, because I know that you know, we work very closely with several organizations such as Weave on a number of DV issues and legislation to keep our victims safe. But, you know, I'm eager to hear your questions and be able to answer as best as I can and offer my input and see how I can be of help. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, we gathered some questions from the clients that we serve and our staff who serve our clients. So I know we're very excited to hear your perspective. What inspires you to keep working on issues of domestic violence and to champion all of the bills that you champion each year?
Well, you know, sometimes, you know, we're shaped by our experiences and what we go through on a daily basis. You know, it's no secret I happen to be a survivor of domestic violence, and unfortunately, I would say unfortunately because, you know, I went through it, but fortunately that really does, my personal experience informs my decisions now that I'm a state legislator and I'm able to support victims in a more personal way. So when I was going through my personal case and my story became public, I was really just humbled by the hundreds of messages I was receiving from women all over the world, not just California, from Australia, Germany. It was really incredible to see that in some small way I had inspired women to tackle this issue, talk about this issue. That's not always easy to do. So I know that I went through a lot of challenges. So the challenges that I went through, I wanted to make sure that I advocated, try to change the judicial system to make it a lot easier for victims to get justice, resources, and break down those barriers that often are what keep women and men too, because we know that men are now climbing in numbers. That's what keeps victims silent. So I wanted to really be a loud advocate and be able to motivate those victims to say, if she did it, I can do it too. So I will continue to keep fighting for these policies, and I've been successful so far. So I'm really just looking forward to the next couple of years and continue to chip away at those barriers and help our victims. Thank you.
Well, we see you here, obviously a very successful woman who has overcome barriers in her life. How did your early life lead you on the career and education path that has brought you here today?
Well, again, I said earlier, we are shaped by our experiences. So I do have quite a bit of a story. And so I wanted to share. I did become a teacher for 17 years. And the nexus for that, I would say the minute I decided to be a teacher, it must have been around when I was 7 or 8 years old. I have a twin brother, and we went to school in the early 70s, and we were second language learners. I, now as a teacher, know that I was a GATE student, or at least navigated the school system a little better than my twin. My twin had a little bit more of a challenging time learning the language, but in the 70s, early 70s, school districts can still test children based on their language, deficiencies. And so he didn't speak English, but yet he was deemed at the time mentally delayed because he couldn't pass an IQ test. So to his detriment, back in the 70s, you would segregate children. Now as a teacher, we have special day classes where we know that those kids learn best by being incorporated in a regular setting. Back in the 70s, it wasn't so. They would segregate children with learning disabilities, and that's what they did to him. And he went from being a fluent Spanish speaker to being nonverbal. They put him in a school with severely handicapped children. And by the time the district figured out that it was a language issue, not necessarily a learning disability, they brought him back. I'll just quickly wrap it up in that his self-esteem took a hit, wasn't able to graduate from high school, really hated school and dropped out as soon as he could. And I remember as a child just feeling guilty that I couldn't help him. And so growing up, that was, what I had in my mind. How do I help families like mine? How do I help children like my brother who didn't have anyone advocating for him? My parents also spoke Spanish, so it was a little difficult to navigate. And so that led me into this fight for education, equity, and those that can help themselves. So that was my path.
I know for many of the women who we work with, their career and educational dreams feel really unattainable because they're dealing with, lots of things in their lives, including being a single mom, having children, all of that. And can be challenging to see the light at the end of the tunnel. What advice would you offer on how to overcome those barriers and achieve career and education goals?
Well, I think we've all been there in one way or the other. I think if I can say this, I think we as women love to multitask and we're phenomenal, right? So I'll say that for all of us together, but we don't know when to ask for help. I think that's where sometimes we fail ourselves. And the way I succeeded, because I also had a full-time job, was struggling financially, was when I finally dropped my guard and let others help me, especially when it came to my education. I ended up seeking out groups, study groups that would, support me, friends that can help out. I have a sister who also had children, and seek out those that want to babysit, want to help you, whatever it may be. But I think it's just dropping that guard and allowing others to help. There's so many resources out there, but I think we still have this, weight on our shoulders that we have to do it all. We don't have to do it all. There's amazing women, resources, and organizations willing to help. And I think it's time we allow ourselves a little bit, just to allow ourselves to know that it doesn't mean we're not perfect, we're not worthy if we ask for help. So that would be my advice. Just seek out good people around you that want to help you.
That's great. We're going through this pandemic, which is dramatically affecting how education happens, how we interview for jobs. What advice would you have about how women should approach looking for a job and education and all of that with this pandemic still kind of hovering over us? Are there any changes that you'd suggest for folks?
Well, I think what happened to even myself, and I like to put myself in everyone's shoes because no one's perfect. And I think all of us were dealing with the understanding what was a pandemic, what were we dealing with, when will it end? And one of the things that I found myself to have is quite a bit of time that I didn't have prior to the pandemic, going back to what I shared, that we like to work all the time and multitask, and we hardly ever have that time to slow down and take stock of where we're at, where we want to go. And I've had several women approach me on the same issue. And I want to just say, this is in a way, it's valuable that we now can sit and really take stock at what we want to do, what we want to pursue. And I would say, take advantage of those moments you do have. Instead of worrying and stressing, put that energy into something you want to pursue. I have a friend who I just encouraged to go back to college. Now the online courses and our ability to get educated online is really opened the door for so many women that couldn't physically be on campus studying and working. Let's take advantage of those opportunities online. I also have another friend who's learning a second language. I mean, this is a valuable time. And as much as we hate being on Zoom and technology, it really has opened doors. So let's take advantage of it.
So you have to show up as a leader every day and put on your best face. And what tricks do you use? How do you build your confidence up? And maybe, if there was a time in your life where you didn't feel as confident, what would you recommend to people to put your best foot forward, whether it's for a job interview or just, showing up in life, to really kind of boost your own self-confidence and put your best you out there?
Well, as a teacher, I know that I try to always encourage my students to be public speakers, because I know that was the one area that I always knew I was deficient. And I have to say, it's a struggle every day. It never gets easier, only because I think we're our worst critics. And the way I started personally just trying to encourage myself to take chances is by making sure that I took every single opportunity given to me, because early on, I would decline, not because I didn't want to participate. I always felt so self-conscious. So it was pushing myself to that limit. I was, really afraid to speak in front of a lot of people. And until I started challenging myself to do it, that's when I became a little bit more confident. And I think we always feel that people listening or people on the other side somehow are either, in my personal experience, more educated, know more than I do. And sometimes we're afraid that we're going to be judged. I started thinking, let me analyze the person across the table or out in the audience. And I started just putting myself in their shoes and just realizing that there are people like myself, and not being so judgmental on my own person, and taking those challenges and accepting those invitations until, I'm able to get better. Again, it's a challenge, but I'm here. And that's, what I would recommend.
You are such a great advocate for survivors of domestic violence. It is a pleasure to see all of the legislation that you put forward. And is there anything that's in the hopper right now that you're especially excited about?
Oh, yes, I'm always working on something. So thank you for asking. This is a topic that I hope continues to be just in the forefront of people's consciousness. Is when I started 2019, I was really surprised, and I say this very respectfully, that even some of my colleagues who are very, progressive and really advocates themselves sometimes had a hard time hearing my story, sometimes had a really difficult time just talking about the issue. And this is one of those topics that I feel for years, generations going back, parents have always told us, when there's a couple, it's none of our concern. You see it. I had someone who told me they saw their neighbor literally be assaulted every single day, but the parent would always say, no, it's we let them handle their business. And so my goal coming into the legislature was to really put that conversation out there and make people comfortable about it. So I've been very successful in extending the statute of limitation for victims of domestic violence. As a teacher, I also knew that we had young individuals who were already manipulating each other, pushing each other. So I make sure I passed a law that now mandates that they put the domestic violence hotline in the back of ID cards. So if it's not even for themselves, they may have a friend or even their parents were currently experiencing domestic violence. So what I do have currently is I want to make permanent and allow victims of domestic violence to be able to testify remotely without having to confront their abusers. It is the scariest thing to have to face your abuser. And some victims will not come forward or not show up to court because of that fear. It's extreme fear that paralyzes victims. So my goal is to be able to, again, solidify the fact that women and victims can go testify remotely and also file for restraining orders remotely, which is not currently being done.
Oh my gosh, that would be so amazing. We know how important that is to the people that we serve.
Yes.
Well, thank you. We've come to the end of our time here. It was just humbling to be among such brilliant and bright women who are doing such good in the world. And thank you all on the YouTube and the Zoom who have joined us today. And those of you who will be watching this in the future. I'm inspired to go out with new confidence, and I hope all of you are as well. And hope everybody has just a fabulous weekend. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.